What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Yo,
How you guys doing?
Good.
feeling it.
Back in the studio today.
Back in the studio with my favorite crew.
Leading us off, man.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking some things lately. I've been
big brain.
big brain. This year, I've kind of just been really focusing on like changing my mindset around fitness again. I think last year was a big year for me to just keep my head down, be in the gym. I did a
Paid
lot.
off.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah, last year I spent a lot of time, I was doing like machine work. I was going to box gyms. I was dealing with the crowds. It was rough.
We also were dealing with trying to get your
We had a knee issue. There.
Oh yeah, my knee was trying to get that figured out.
Position.
But now that I'm feeling good, my knee's feeling good this year. Some of my main goals for the year are getting back to like movement and activity outside the gym, not just training in the gym. Why am I doing all this training? So
It's just crazy. It's crazy as trainers as we fall into that pitfall because we spend so much time here.
Yeah.
And I'm not training hands-on like I did, but I do know that I always had a membership somewhere else, always. Yeah. Even owning the business for as long as we have, but even when I was working for another major business, I paid for a membership somewhere else because I needed to get out of that environment because it gets very repetitive. It can get very mundane. Obviously, you can get interrupted very easily. You're distracted by what's going on, but to give you basically a different setting to get different things done. And part of it is different equipment, but a lot of it is a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Because you end up in the gym, you're literally in the gym 16 hours a day sometimes, you know? And so, I've always looked forward to getting outside, whether I was into another gym or other activities. So I feel you.
Yeah, that's something I feel like I was kind of locked in these gyms for a long time. And like today's one of those days I'm in this gym for 12 and a half hours. There's no break in the fluorescent.
The walls start closing in.
They start closing in.
Yeah.
I'm getting out. But so I've just mainly like this year, I've already started to do playing a lot more basketball. I actually joined an adult basketball league.
I wondered where you were going.
I have been, hooping a little bit. Yeah. And then I've been doing some mountain biking, very low novice baby level mountain biking.
Whoa.
But yeah.
The weather out there sucks right now for that. But generally in California, you can kind of do that year round.
Yeah, the beginning of the year when it was like this
January,
cold. Yeah, it was like a sunny but chilly, but it was perfect.
Yeah, now the mud has returned with the rain of this week. So I was experiencing the same thing with the trails as far as like, January, this has been much less muddy, and now the mud will be back.
Sticking to your shoes.
But that's I get these like clown shoes of mud like attached, and there's like 6 pounds of mud on each one of my feet. It's horrible. It's the worst. It's the worst thing ever. But I digress.
It's that sandy clay soil we have here in the Bay Area for sure. It gets bad. You know what makes it worse? I'm just gonna say this because it bothers me. So all those trails that we can go out and hike and run and ride our horses on. I don't have horses. Horses actually. I have a little bit of a phobia of horses because I had a bad experience once. Okay. They scare me a little bit. But the point of that is they won't let us ride our mountain bikes on those trails because of the basically the erosion allegedly and roughing up the trails. But they'll let those horses go out there and nothing fucks up a trail more than a horse.
Or cows.
And cows too, because a lot of it is open grazing land out here. The open spaces that we do have, there's not a lot of them left, and we're trying to hold on to those. But you go out and you go to run in the winter, right? And it's muddy, and you just got this tore up trail from the horses. And then that same sandy clay, as soon as the sun comes out and dries it out, now that terrain.
Oh yeah, it's an ankle buster, 9,000 knee grinder. Yeah, it's terrible. I hate the cow trails.
Do you ever run at Quicksilver? That's where I used to hike a lot.
Yeah. Quicksilver thankfully does not get cow traffic.
Right.
Where I live in the East Bay, that is like just cow trails. And at this time of year, it's just mud, and then the cows walk through it, and then in the spring it dries out, and then you have this landmine death trap trails. Like it sucks. Anyways, major digression.
Yeah. The hoop stuff. Did you play hoops in high school? Is that where this came from?
I played through my sophomore year. So I wasn't like super competitive, and I had like a weird educational background. Right. I don't know if we talked about that. But so I didn't always play. It was more than like clubs and things like that. Gotcha. But I actually played baseball for like 10 years, and then I played basketball for like 5 years. But I stopped my sophomore year.
Yeah. So, I put a lot of activity when I was younger too. Yeah. And obviously that's decreased with age as we've been going down, these years. I find it, again, there's more liabilities. There's more things going on. We try to get outside as often as possible, but these last few months has been really rough. The challenges with work and whatever, and I'm itching right now. We're not probably going to get up to the snow very much at all this year based on the schedule.
Yeah,
so to
same.
do any snowboarding, I'm going to miss that. Whereas last year we were able to put on
a couple times.
We went a few times. It was so fun. You just get outside and try to avoid the crowds, but you're outside being active outside of the gym. It's so refreshing. Yeah. So I get that. Like, got to get outside the walls.
That sounds kind of dangerous, though. Snowboarding and skiing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. A friend of mine tore their ACL doing that.
Yeah. That was funny. Even when I started this playing basketball again, I told, some clients are asking me what I'm doing and stuff. And I think I literally had 15 people between family and friends and clients that say like, oh my gosh, don't hurt your knee playing basketball. Don't hurt yourself. And I just kept thinking, I was like, man, that's like a sad way to live, is being like afraid to do anything physical. So, I mean, I kind of understand it from a different perspective, from the person who's literally not participating at all, the person who doesn't exercise at all. I think that's one of, and that were some of the people that were communicating this to me. But on the other side of things, the people that I'm like, you're active, you're working out, you're in here. And even the people that are pretty fit, they still have this like fear of doing these things outside the gym, even though they're running and jumping and doing all this stuff with our kind of training that we have them do. And that fear that's around that, it kind of just, I don't know. I mean, the reason I kind of got back into this, you and I had a conversation like at the beginning of this last year when I'd finished undergrad like a year or two before, and I was still kind of diving into a lot of my own education, but I was basically like, my hobby was training, my work, whatever, 40, 50 hours a week between everything. And then, and then my continued education was just everything around health and fitness. And you even gave me the advice of like, man, you got to like get back in to find some hobbies that aren't that isn't learning about biomechanics and training clients and programming and all this stuff. And I didn't really realize until recently, I have a couple other hobbies I've been doing that aren't necessarily physical either, but that have just like this itch that I haven't scratched in probably like 10 years that I'm just starting to now. And I can't tell you like the night and day, like in my mental, like, I don't know, my emotional state, my mental state. And like, I'm just happier, just scratching this itch, doing this stuff. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's the blockage that people have. There's like a dichotomy there. Like they know they need to be fit and active, so they go to a gym. And like again, when you go like you said, there may be as many as 15 people, some clients, some family, whatever else. So you've got this person who, like as a client, for example, who knows being healthy and fit's important. Like, and they're approaching it for some reason, right? Whatever their reasons are, everybody's got some, different things. Their whys may be a little bit different, but they've embarked on this journey or re-entered into this thing of where I know I need to be doing things that help my longevity, my aesthetics, my performance in some way. And almost always it's more around the aesthetics and longevity piece, particularly here. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with the demographic that we live in here. There's a lot of people that are just entering into a regular exercise for their very first time in their life, minus maybe their inclusion in it in high school or as a kid, because it was
first time in their adult life they're like really exercising regularly. But to hear when people are outside doing things outside, and then they hire a coach because they're like, I don't want to get hurt. I want to make sure I'm being wise with my investment of time right here.
I don't even know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
So they're looking for some structure and some programming there.
And so I don't want to take anything away from that. But interestingly, like that jump to, if I did something else, this could be dangerous. And I also get that too, because we hear and see that all the time. People go out and they get involved in an activity that invariably, if you're active enough and you do this long enough, stuff is going to happen. You're going to fall off that mountain bike, man, right? You're going to fall down on the basketball court. You're going to be put in compromised positions if you're doing things that are unknown, right? In terms of nature versus that very specific structure of here's the workout plan for the day. We have some very specific mechanics we're working you through, and we want these very specific ranges, and it's very controlled and known, right? Versus the unknown stuff. And as soon as that unknown stuff starts to enter the picture, all of a sudden the red lights go on and the alarm bells go off about the danger associated with it. Yeah. I'd have to agree with you, man. I think for me, that's a tough way to live. I would not want to live my life that way. But I also understand how people can be fearful of that stuff. But I don't think it sets you up well for a very fulfilling lifestyle, just in general, when it comes to your health, fitness, wellness, resiliency, vibrancy, and the things that come on board with that. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about this off air. You had made the comment of like, it's honestly a great way to kind of put you in an early grave. Like it's a way to like, and I see this, and maybe it's driven from like how sedentary society is more and more and more. And it's interesting because I feel like in some ways athletics with youth is almost more intense, and there's more games and there's more playing. But then as a society as a whole, and even a lot of those athletes are very sedentary outside of their sports. And so that mindset of, I feel like younger and younger, I see people that are, in their mid 20s, young 20s, early 30s that are like already like given up on, I can't do that thing anymore. I'm 30, I'm 20, I'm 25, whatever. And like, for me, like keeping maybe it's almost like a childlike joy in life to be able to go do things that bring joy outside of just the mundane, like one of responsibilities of life of working and doing those types of those things. But on the other side of, again, I love training. I'm in the gym. Like training is a very big part of my life, but even just getting caught up in that, or I feel like a lot of people train in a very like either only bodybuilding style or only powerlifting style. They train in the gym and they never explore these other things. I'm like, if you're 25, you hopefully have, maybe you're a third of the way through your life. Hopefully you'd want for the rest of this time, you don't want to go and experience and do these things that brought you so much joy when you were younger. So that's just my mindset around it. It's just like, you got to be able to keep doing that stuff.
Yeah. I'm interested. You brought that. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually did a podcast a long time ago with a buddy of mine. It was during like deep into COVID. And it was when we kind of first started the podcast, when it was all just the health and fitness side of things. And part of it was just reconnecting with my industry friends to commiserate and collaborate a little bit on having our gym shut down. He's a VP. Donnie's if you're listening out there, shout out to you, man. Miss you. He's a VP for a very, very large fitness fitness company. And we were having this very conversation and going back to youth and kids and how people are, they lose touch. And interesting how that happens, particularly here in the United States, because at some level, all kids are involved in PE at some point. And over time, that's actually been pulled away. Like it's not a compulsory part of getting through the educational pathways.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous for America. I think it's dangerous for people and humans in general versus other cultures and other places in the world where activity is much more a part of the culture that they live in or whatnot. But even still, I don't know. I don't live in those cultures. I'm only speaking from kind of what I've observed from the outside. My point being is it starts as PE, right? And really when you get introduced to PE, it's playing.
Yeah.
And that's what kids should be doing. And all the things that you develop by playing a game or a sport or being involved in some type of a competition. And we could go down a rabbit hole in that. But it goes from PE to exercise. And somehow it transitions. Like we stopped climbing on monkey bars and having a catch in the park and playing stickball or flag football or soccer or running or, volleyball or whatever it happens.
Red Rover.
Yeah, man. Dodgeball, which we can't do anymore because it
light, green light.
It hurts people's feelings, all that kind of stuff. It turns into exercise. And somewhere along the line, exercise then turns into like a chore for people.
It's like a dosage. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like people now, they see exercise. Let me get my dosage of exercise, like my required dosage of exercise versus thinking about it as a means to a more active life. Like this is how I prepare for my more active life. Well, I'm sort of required based on my general health to get my dosage of exercise. So I go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, get my dosage of exercise, and okay, I've fulfilled my requirement. And it's like checking a box versus actually using it to have a more active and fulfilled life.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're disassociated with the playing, right? And the things that playing, we just stop playing as adults.
Yeah.
Right. And again, there's a lot of things that probably get piled onto there. Accessibility, it's again, there's career paths and kids and relationships and whatever else. But we've taken a very, very raw part of our humanness out of there. And it turns into, yes, a chore or a task that need to get done. At some point along the line, it becomes a chore. And as that happens, it becomes harder and harder to do the things, whatever they are. Again, playing volleyball, running, riding a bike.
Go for a hike.
Why? Because you don't do anything to prepare yourself or support that thing that you want to do. So then it turns into like, well, I just play on the weekends. I'm the weekend warrior. I go out and I ride my bike on the weekends. It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not doing this stuff regularly and it turns into like I ride every Saturday with my buddies or every Sunday morning or whatever it is. And that turns into, Well, I got the kids' soccer game to go to on Saturdays, so now it's every other weekend. And I'm kind of now not riding with my buddies anymore. I got to find time to do it, so I'm doing it by myself. And so the playing that also has a social element to it turns into this solo activity, which, again, some people are wired really well for that, and some people just simply aren't. So it becomes even more of a challenge for them to continue to do this stuff. And then, again, so then it becomes less frequent, and then it becomes hard. Right? In the sense that I'm not having as much fun as I used to have doing this, likely because I'm not fit enough to do what I want to do. Right. And so now it's like I need to do this versus I want to do this. And then as soon as it gets to a point where it's really uncomfortable, or I'm suffering something, that some discomfort, maybe an overuse injury or pain. And I never like to make this about you're going to get hurt, kind of thing. But you said something there about it putting you in an early grave. This timeline and sequence of events stacks up. And as you get older, like if you're already in your 30s, right, and you're lacking these elements, right, of living a fulfilled, fruitful, vibrant life, and all the things that brings along with you in terms of playing, right, being outside and playing, you're not going to do more when you're 70.
No.
Right? Like in 40 years from now, like it's not going to get easier. It's actually going to get harder. And the position you put yourself in physically, metabolically, mentally, emotionally at that point puts you in a really, really hard spot. The interesting part about this is at 70, you'll still be taking 2 hours out of your day or 3 hours out of your day to plop yourself down on your couch and watch somebody else be active in the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, whatever the thing is. It's so weird because they're looking at it like, oh, this is entertainment for me to watch, but I will not, this is not something that I ever do for myself. And to me, it's weird. Like, I know I'm not going to be an NFL player. I never was, right? I was never set up for that, and it just wasn't going to be in the cards for me. But to the extent that I don't even watch the NFL anymore now because I don't like what it's turned into. My point being is they've replaced the time with actually doing stuff to watching stuff.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Or learning about it, but not acting on it, or going down a pathway of trying to learn about it and then implementing things that are completely backwards in terms of like priority sets and what's going to help you stay out of that grave earlier. Again, going back to the performance aesthetics or longevity piece. Yeah. It's kind of a wild thing. And I mean, in America, here we are now with screens in front of ourselves all the time and people having all this access to information and not going out and knowing how to close the lid on the laptop or whatever, or turn the phone off and go out and do stuff. But then when they do, they get hurt, right? Or it's not comfortable. And then it's, again, the danger lights and sirens go off.
Confirms their bias or what they thought
100%.
Going in.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Man, and it's one of those things, even just really quick, like it's one of those things that, man, like I had been wanting to do this for a long time. And now that I'm doing it, just the joy, like I said, that it's brought, like
feels
I just
good,
urge, it feels good to go play. And I like what Steven said about, you do need to do the hygiene and the checking the box of the exercise, but switching that mindset of so it enables you to go do the things in life that you want to do. Where I think people either don't participate, which we've talked about, or they hyper focus on just checking the box and they never go do the things in their life they want to do, the play. They never participate in those other things. So I think like doing the exercise, yes, and I still do that, and you should do that, but so that it can allow you to go surf on the weekends or go play that basketball league with a little bit less fear,
more confidence,
but then also probably some better performance when you go out there,
which will improve your confidence.
And even for me, just this is, it's only into February now, so it's been more recent, but it's kind of revitalized some of my training in the gym, a little bit of my intention and focus on that, where I kind of was in a little bit of a lull from the holidays and stuff, but it's made me, and I think when you have a goal that's not just purely aesthetics based, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like that's a very fleeting goal because
a
shallow goal and aesthetics come and go and they fluctuate, and there can be lots of factors for that. And it can be something that sometimes the variables and the outcomes don't always agree exactly, even if you control everything you think you are. But sometimes like those goals that are things outside of that are either performance in the gym, but performance or play, or, hey, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. And you're like, hey, I used to not be able to get down on the ground with them and get back up with ease. And now I just did that. I didn't even think about that. Like those kinds of things are way more motivating to continue to maintain a healthy lifestyle for sure as you age. So
the deeper why. It made me think though of a question when you said that you've adjusted your intention with your training.
Yeah.
So is your training, are you now thinking that there's more basketball specific movements, or how have you adjusted your intention in your training?
Question.
Yeah. So it's, the important thing for me is, last year was very rooted in, and I had built this big foundation of putting on muscle. Like my number one goal last year was putting on muscle.
That was the intention.
That was the intention of almost the entire year for like 8 to 9 months of last year. So I kind of had that foundation, even though I was kind of nursing a knee injury. But my intention is still very rooted in trying to maintain as much muscle and strength as I can. So I'm not hammering like a bunch of conditioning. I'm not hammering a bunch of change of direction stuff, things like that.
That happens when you go out and you play.
And I'm getting that. And so I'm honestly, the first couple of times I kind of let my body see how it felt, because I knew I was set up in a way where I'm fit, my connective tissue's in a good spot, I feel pretty good. But I let those first few times playing kind of be the guiding light to see what I felt I needed to work on. So now I am still very rooted in some of my foundational movement patterns, my foundational basic stuff, but there are a couple of like little strengthening things that I'm doing. I am adding a little bit more dynamic work that I hadn't been doing, a little bit more power exercises that I hadn't been doing, a little bit more like prehabby feel type stuff, but it's not this stuff that's just so nuanced and out that it's not good for me in general with my training. But like, I don't know, stuff that just like strengthening around my hips and knees and stuff that's honestly just made me feel better with it. So
you've leaned a little bit in that direction,
yeah.
But it's not like this is the basketball program.
No, not fully.
I am now a recreational basketball athlete,
exactly,
and I train like it. I think that's important to touch on, because I think that could be an area where maybe somebody does come in with a very specific, I feel like this happens with runners the most. Yeah. It's always like the salty old runners who like, I used to run half marathons. I used to run marathons. Yeah. Now maybe I'm in my late 40s or early 50s and I've gotten out of it. You don't necessarily have to be in that age range, but that's what's been my experience. Mm-hmm. It's the salty old runners. I want to get back to running like I used to, so I need a running specific plan. I need a strength training plan that's going to support my running.
No.
And you incorrect. So yeah, it's I think that attitude can come up when, with your weekend warriors or people who have been a weekend warrior in the past, that type of thing. Well, this is the activity I used to do and I want to get back to that. So I need to train for that thing.
Yeah.
Even though maybe they've been sedentary for 5 years and they need to start back from square one, really.
For sure. And I think important what kind of we're alluding to, and even like with my training, but for that person who's maybe the non-exerciser trying to get back into this activity, before you even worry about this like gait specific running, improving your running economy, or if you're going back to want to play basketball, before you even worry about like my lateral movement and my explosiveness out of the hole and all this different stuff, like, are you in a basic resistance training program that is building the foundational movement patterns, but then is base levels of strengths, base levels of muscle mass, endurance, all those kind of things, before you ever even worry about the like basketball specific or running specific programs type stuff.
It's such a good point in the connections that you're making, right? And again, the connections people make with why they're exercise, going back to the checking the box and why am I doing what I'm doing? And a lot of people get into exercise because they want to look and feel better, right? For whatever the reason. And then there's layers to all of that. And the connection that you have to something bigger than that. And so I'll drop another name. That's Jacob Hepner, a good friend of mine. I work with him over with the In Extremis Performance crew. And for those people that have been around the CrossFit world a long time, or even the tactical games world, and now the comp shooting world, they'll know who Jacob is. And he's got this really great gym on his property, and he invites people in to work out there. He's not the guy doing all the programming for them or whatever, but he's very specific about who he lets in. He's like, I need you to have a goal bigger than what's happening here in this building, right? And what is that? And why are you coming here every day? What's the larger connection to the thing? And if you ask Jacob, I just told you, and kind of getting into the things that he does, like, it's never been the same thing all the time. What I'm getting at there is there's some foundational things, and you just kind of brought some of those things up, and we can kind of highlight them, but there's some foundational things you need to have in order to be able to do all these different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is what happens in the gym. working out in the gym doesn't make you a better basketball player. It prepares you to do the things on the basketball court that would make you a better basketball player.
I like that.
Right. Yeah. And enjoy doing it and be resilient and, decrease your risk of injuries in some cases. And however you're prioritizing those things in your life or what your connection to it is. The point being is people will set goals and they think that's their goal, and with no thinking about like how this goal might change, or more specifically, how it can change, how you should want to change it as you achieve new things and explore all these different stuff. If you're never exploring the expression of the things that you're building right in the gym, you'll never know. And how much are you missing out on? Again, like going back to like whether it's snowboarding or surfing or mountain biking or hiking or running, which I don't like doing, but I've actually started sprinting more as I'm prepping for a specific thing that's coming up here. Like I'm going, man, this is fun. I miss this. I'm not very good at it right now, right? I actually love that. I love that I'm not good at it because I can measure things, I can manage things, and I can explore different angles of things. And I'm never not one time. Now, I am aware of how to do that properly. And when I say properly, I just mean in a framework that could help me, again, stay more resilient, recover properly in between the sessions that I'm doing to avoid overuse injuries, and also being aware of the things that I already have on board. I'm already bringing to the table in terms of liability, in a sense, where my weak points are and whatever. So I'm able to handle that. But when I'm in the gym, I'm making that connection, and the exploring this stuff and being willing to put myself in these uncomfortable, again, situations of maybe like I'm doing this thing that's a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but I'm really encouraged to do it because it's outside my wheelhouse. Right. And having that motivation, which then gets me into the gym. And this is a thing that'll be happening in a couple of months, actually a little less than that now when we're recording this. But after that, like I'm thinking beyond that, how do I then leverage that, what I built to maybe try and or do something different? And more specifically, like if I don't have that idea, right, I don't know what that is, but I know the work that I'm putting in, I would like to maintain for a little while. And it doesn't mean I completely upset the apple cart in the gym, going back to what Stephen was saying about like, I didn't pick a program that was completely outside of what I was already typically doing, which to your point, and this is the points I wanted to highlight, is there's foundations you need to have here. Strength is important, right? For any athletic or physical endeavor. Foundations of your program for both health, fitness, and performance should be rooted in a very strong connection to your strength training program. How much strength do you need to build? How strong do you need to be? Like that's relative, right? And where do you need to be strong there? And what are the foundational principles that you're applying within the framework of strength and strength training to be able to do that? Then there's the conditioning side. How much conditioning do I really need? Like I always think having a certain amount of conditioning is important. I'm recognizing that I am not conditioned for some of the things that I'm doing, and I'm having to build that back. So that's actually changing my focus a little bit, and it's fun, right? I'm playing a little bit with exploring things I haven't done in a long time. I'm running more than I did, but I'm not going out to run 5Ks. I hate that.
Yeah.
I'll be able to do that if I need or wanted to. I know through the pathway I'm going through with a little effort and a little adjustment to the programming that I'm going through, but it's deeply rooted in some basic strength and conditioning that happens, yes, in the gym, and then I can express that in these other things that I'm doing. And again, back to Stephen's point, it doesn't mean I need to go out and hire a basketball coach to get better at playing basketball. Or a basketball specific, coach in strength and conditioning coach in order to get there. Because any basketball focused strength and conditioning coach is going to be rooting their program in the basic foundations of strength and conditioning. Those things never change. There's basic principles there we don't want to violate. However, as you start to explore and start to advance and level up, or maybe even have a few setbacks, there are things that can be applied to help you be better. And that, again, that mindset is important, not just for the event or the athletic endeavor that you're exploring here or wanting to get involved in, but for life, right? Because those are the things that are going to help you stay alive longer, to be able to do the basic stuff, getting off the floor, right? Like you said, or getting down into and out of off the toilet, for God's sakes, or something like that, where we see people struggling with that stuff. Yeah. And going back to the mindset, how much of that mindset has now put you in that situation later in life where you missed out on all these other things because you already made up your mind that that's dangerous.
Well, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Prepared for it,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. You're just you think you're unprepared for it, so then you don't do it, so then you're unprepared for it.
And you become unprepared.
It's a self-fulfilled prophecy as you've kind of stated there. So again, just like from a higher arching perspective, is like if you haven't done these things in a long time and you're at that point in life where you recognize like, shit, I'm really inactive, right? As compared to where I was. Look, 2 days a week is better than no days a week. 3 days a week is better than 2. 4 days a week is better than 3. 5 days a week, we're starting to ride the edge of how much is too much, kind of thing. And 6, and then obviously 7. And what am I doing to recover? And how am I applying all this stuff? People get way too far down the outcomes path than they do in the process path. If you had a well-developed process to get to where you wanted to, once that process is set and you understand it, it's very maintainable or sustainable. And then these other things that you may want to do are not so hard to then make adjustments to, because you have this foundation to come back to. And to your point, Stephen, a lot of people will just go back to whatever the foundation was at the beginning. But the reality of it is there wasn't a good foundation there in the first place. They just were at a point in life where they were a little bit more resilient. They had a little bit more strength. They had a little less liability. They had more time on their hands or whatever. So they just did the thing. And that provided them the only success that they know. And so whatever that is, like I did run marathons, I did run half marathons. So like, I just need to go back to what I was doing now. Well, if that was 10, 15 years ago, dude, you're a different dude, man. Like a much different dude. So there has to be a process to this that supports the athletic endeavor of going out and joining an adult basketball league. If you've been sitting on the couch, right, and you're looking to lose some weight, be more active, be more social, whatever, I don't suggest you run out and join a basketball league.
That's a great thing. We brought this conversation up, kind of talking about not fearing getting injured, doing something like playing in a basketball league. But I do think it is important to recognize where you are at. And our point here too is, yes, we want you to be able to get to a place where you can go join the adult basketball league and not have fear. Like I was kind of in that situation because I know I've done a lot of the preliminary things. But if you haven't been exercising and it's been 15 years since you did anything, where you hear these horror stories, a lot of times of someone going and getting injured is the person who hasn't exercised, they're not doing a regular routine, and then they go and play in an adult basketball league, and that's the thing they're trying to do to get in shape. So really the point is you should train in the gym to allow yourself to, I forget exactly you worded it earlier, but to allow yourself to almost withstand the sport that you want to do or the activities that you want to do. The resiliency, build that resiliency. Like you want those activities revitalize your life and revitalize a lot of your mental state and the aging process, but you do need to prepare yourself for them on the other side of that as well.
So when you go out there, you can do it, you can perform, you're resilient to it. Like it's, I wouldn't recommend for 1 second somebody just going out and running an ultra marathon. Like you are absolutely not prepared for that. Like do not do that. You will get hurt.
Yeah, most people would agree with that statement,
right? I am in races and I'm like, this is your first day, isn't it? And we're going 30 miles. Like well, how? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. So that. And then those examples of that person who just dives in completely unprepared, that becomes the example of, oh, see, you get hurt doing that stuff. Well, if they were properly prepared, no, that's not necessarily the case. So you don't want to just take exercise, in my opinion, like as a dosage of exercise. Like I got to that was really how I got into running, because I was in this kind of period in my life post-baseball, pre-running, where I had nothing outside of the gym, and I was just going to the gym just to gym and just to be, just to fitness, just to, just for aesthetics. And I got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm in shape now. Like, well, this is boring. Like I was getting bored.
100%.
And I still, as much as I enjoy strength training, sometimes I get bored with strength training.
Sure.
But because I have a larger goal in mind, I have an active hobby that I pursue that can get me through the strength training days that I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this today. But because I have that greater goal that I'm working towards, I can get through it. I can derive the discipline from that greater motivation, that deeper motivation. So there's a medium that we're trying to find here.
Exactly.
Like you can, and it's all about sustainability. Like I'm preparing myself in the gym so I can go do my activity sustainably.
Yeah.
And the gym, that allows that.
So I can't say that I've gotten to a point where I find that I don't want to go to the gym or do my strength training, because I think I've been on the other spectrum of not being healthy and not having an active lifestyle, and like sitting there sweating, not doing anything, my boobs touching my stomach, thinking, God, this is miserable, and I didn't even have a kid at the time. And I was like, if I'm going to have a kid, like, this is no way to live life. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I used the strength training as an avenue, one, to lose some weight, but then two, when I had that base, I was like, you know what? I want to try some triathlons. And so I did some triathlons. And I did some marathons, and, it's given me that foundation to be able to go and do the things or train for things that I wanted to do. And it still gives me the foundation to be able to, if we want to go on a bike ride, I can get on my bike. Yeah. Or go skiing with the kid. And the kid was the one that was tired before I was tired. And she's like, I'm done, Mom. I'm like, okay.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would have to say that it's mindset. And it's mindset, and it's also then about a lifestyle, and it's giving yourself the gift of life, really, at the end of it, I think.
I think there's a deeper level to that too, and that is giving the gift to somebody else or not. And so, again, we talked about some of the restrictions that may come up for people, I'll call it limitations, that you have to work around, which is having kids' work schedules, professional schedules. I don't want to take anything away. Like, I very much understand how those things are priorities, and you have to mix and match things, and sometimes take away a little bit here to give a little bit there, or so forth. But in thinking about this too is, getting out and playing and being active to be able to do things with people socially, whether that's your family, your kids, your buddies, whatever, and go and do things and feel like you're able to participate. And do that and have fun and not be worried in your head about, like, I'm not going to be able to keep up or whatever. And there's a flip side to that with being completely overconfident and out of touch with that, and showing up to some of these things like a vacation where we're going to the mountains, we're going to go camping, and then we're going to go out and hike, or, right. We're going to do something very, let's just say, not very hard. Like, we're just going to go for a hike. We're going to go we're in the mountains. We're going to go see that Upper Mountain Lake, and we got to climb up a few hundred feet to do that, and climb up these trails or whatever. And you be the person that makes everybody else's time suck because you can't do it. There's probably a lot of people that couldn't relate to that or whatever, but I think it's to some extent for you to embark on that journey with the rest of the people and not be in a position to be able to do it. And you know it, and you're going out there, or you're so naive to this that you don't know. I feel like that's a bit selfish. And because I've been in several of those situations, like, fuck, dude, you just ruined my time today. And now we are stuck here babysitting you, or having to coddle you, or make adjustments to everybody else's plans in life, like in this vacation that we get maybe 2 of a year or whatever else. This to us is something that we don't think about it, right? Because we're doing other things in our life to prepare us to be able to do these things and then enjoy it when we get there. Don't be dude, just go to fucking Disneyland, right? And all the people riding around in carts, right? And they couldn't make it through a day at the amusement park, whether it's Disneyland or wherever else, because they simply do not have the capacity to do that. And I see the kids doing it now. You got 2 parents in carts and you got kids following around. I'm like, these are young kids. These are 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, whatever. And I'm like, what kind of life have you set them up for? And again, maybe I might be speaking a little bit out of line, but I look at that and I go, that is not okay. Like, put yourself in a position to be able to help other people enjoy their life as much as you. But if you don't take care of yourself and you're going into it with this mindset that it's okay, there's an alternative for me here, then those alternatives, just look around, will likely, to your point, put you in the grave a little bit earlier. And then what else have you missed out on? So again, that's a little bit more esoteric, I think, in a sense. But at the same time, like, I think it's very real. And I think there's a lot of fear that's associated with that in people. And it's interesting how that fear shuts them down from doing the very thing they need to do to overcome the fear, which is start this process. Yeah. So again, it's not like I need to get in shape so I can go hike. Let's get in shape for the sake of getting in shape and being healthy. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Maybe it's just fitnessing at the gym. Totally fine. If that's what floats your boat and you love that and you get the fulfillment that you need out of that, and it allows you to do these other things, or you're not interested in doing anything else, I'm not taking anything away from you. I'm just saying, what are you leaving on the table, right? And what else out there? Because it's not a lack of accessibility. I mean, you could join an adult basketball league anywhere in any city in the country. You could find something to do, right? And there's so many places in America where there's so much activity that you could do outside of sitting in front of your desk in front of a screen doing that work all day or whatever. And let's just be honest, if that's not enough, being sedentary is one of the main causes for all-cause mortality, right? Yeah. Like, there are so many metrics that can be measured there. And with regard to, hormone levels, insulin sensitivity, your sex hormones, and how cortisol and all the things that come into that. We've talked about that stuff ad nauseum on the podcast before, but if you think your mindset isn't affecting those things, well, then you're wrong, because it may not be right now, but it will. So how do you overcome that? And it's really just get back to the foundational stuff of getting yourself moving, getting into something so that it allows you to do more, or at least do it longer, in life. And so that, again, you're not at 70 looking back at 30 going, man, if I had just done this then, I'd be in a much different state. I mean, people have said this all the time. This is kind of cliche, but nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I'd done less, right? It's I don't think they're saying that. Like, I want more time with I wished I'd done this with my kids. I wished I'd done this with my family. I wished I'd done this in my life. And so much of that has to do with your physicality, right? And your ability to express the things that the human body is able to express when a little work and effort is put into it. And yes, we have made technology has made it much, much easier to get further and further away from that. But there are things that people can reach out to. It could be so many things. We've mentioned marathons and things like that.
About pickleball.
I mean, it's an example. Like, go down to the park. I mean, there's people of all ages out there playing pickleball. I'm like, get after it. Like, I'm not a huge fan of pickleball, but as it's evolved, like, you see how many people it's brought into the fold of fitness, right? And health, being outside, getting some fresh air and some sunlight and whatever else. And there's a social aspect to it too that is so important for community, for your mental and emotional health. So, dude, I'm totally with you on the, like, getting out and playing basketball with people. Some people you probably don't even know them, right? Yep. But everybody out there having a good time. Maybe sometimes it gets a little rough. People get a little fired up. Good. Like, that's what they should be doing, right? Like, it drives that motivation to get better, be the better athlete. Winning is important. Losing is also important, right? But having a connection to that outside of, did I meet my weight loss goal or didn't I? Because that motivation to do that, and to your point, the fluctuation, it's never linear. You're probably going to lose that motivation at some point, or you're probably, what happens when you do reach that goal? What's the next thing? So to be thinking outside the box.